in this series, I'm sitting down with the innovators behind the UK's most exciting automotive businesses, whether they're game-changing startups, industry disruptors, or established legends. We'll be diving into the latest digital and physical products currently shaking up the UK vehicle retail space. If it's making waves, we'll be covering it. My guest today is Chris Barrett, founder of vAutoStock, your complete vehicle preparation and tracking solution. Welcome, Chris, and thanks for being my guest on this, the latest episode of the Supplier Showcase podcast.
Hi, Neil. Thank you for the invite.
No problem. Now, we've known each other for a number of years, and some of my dealer-side clients are currently using your solution to manage their vehicle preparation. But to enable our viewers to get to know you a little better, a regular feature of this podcast series is the guest icebreaker. So, please tell us 3 interesting facts about yourself, 2 of which are true and 1 that isn't. We'll then let the viewers ponder this during the podcast, and I'll ask you to reveal which are true and which is false at the end.
I think anyone who knows me will probably be surprised if I can think of 3 interesting facts, but I'll give it a go. At least 1 doesn't have to be true. So, number 1, I lived in Ibiza for a short period of time, and there's might give something away. And harder one, I used to be a hair model. So some time ago, I used to have good hair and was a hair model. And the third one, I learnt to surf in Brazil and got into a bit of bother with a local surfer because apparently I was on his waves, ruining the surfing experience, very Point Break-like. So they're my 3 interesting facts.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, so I'll have to have a little think about that. The hair model one probably sits well with me as well in that instance.
Yeah, well, we've modelled ourselves on each other, haven't we, I think?
That's right. Definitely. So, look, that's great. Thanks for that. And we'll have a look at which one of those is fake at the end. So let's learn a little bit more about Chris Barrett. Tell me about you, your background, and how you ended up where you are today.
Yeah, so I always joke I started doing work experience in a car dealership and they haven't let me go, I think is my my opening bit, really. Yeah, I started selling Renaults in 1998, I think, but I was doing work experience before then. So I've been in the industry a long time and really got into selling cars, actually. Quite loved it. I wouldn't say I was a traditional salesperson in the way of sort of closing people down and that kind of thing. I just kind of knew about the cars, talked to them, which is kind of all you need to do. And it was when Renault had 6% market share, so it was probably a bit more, bit easier, and no internet really. So you just had to make sure you looked after people that came in. So that's where I started, and then moved my way up. I was a manager quite early on in my career. And then the last proper job I had, I'd say, was I was a sales director for a large Vauxhall group. It was Go Vauxhall at the time. It's been a couple of names since, I think. But that was where this idea came about. So, that was kind of my last proper job. Used vehicle prep was a challenge for us across 7 sites. It was very hard for me to manage as a sales director. And I had no visibility of where we were and what was happening. And I was forever turning up at sites and trying to work out what the situation was. And we had better performing sites than others. And you could see the ones that were focused on it perform better, like anything. Yeah. So I was looking for something that would do it. Couldn't find anything. So went out and developed something that would help me in that job. And then I guess the rest is history, as they say. So that's kind of like my spectrum of career. And actually in between that, I've done a few things. I've worked at manufacturer level as well as dealer, and done some temporary bits as well on the side. So a whole host of things.
Yeah, and I think that piece to what you spoke about there, the sort of multi-site franchise operation. I've dealt with a group over the past couple of years who only have 3 sites, but they have challenges across those 3 sites. The sales manager will have a different view on how prep should be carried out, how much money to put into prep on those units. Some will want to restrict the amount of money being put into prep and try and maximize margin, but then that doesn't really help with stock turn or quality of product and customer experience. So it would be good to understand the real challenges you saw across those 7 sites. What was it around that sort of quality or the cost or the fact it was being managed by that sales manager and it was their decision what level of prep to apply?
Yeah, it was. I think it's a common question, isn't it? It's a balance between the quality of the prep. So you've got a car that is ready to go when the customer comes in. You don't give them a reason. So what I had was a very mixed. It was hard getting that group level agreed because you had a very good sales manager that was very focused on cost. Very good because he was focused on cost, but then perhaps the quality wasn't quite as good as you wanted as the business. So it was, and then you've got someone else that would be preparing cars too well and costing a fortune. Yeah. So it was kind of getting that was one of the challenges, getting the right balance in terms of where do you sit as a company, but not penalizing someone that's doing a good job. So there was that. You had some very good. And then there was obviously the speed of prep was the challenge for anyone. And in fact, a lot of the time you couldn't work that out. So you couldn't really establish, or you could kind of put your finger in the air and try and work out what your speed was. What you could see was if a sales manager had bought a car themselves on the Friday, it was on the pitch by Saturday morning, ready to go. But a car that had been delivered to them via a group was in the queue and not prioritized and that kind of thing. So it was a bit of a mixed performance. And then we, again, I'll always remember there was a very good sales manager, very process driven. They were using a T-card board and it was fantastic for them if you're in their office. But again, it kind of wasn't doing the job. And this obviously years ago, and there's all sorts of different things you can do now. But that they were the challenges. And keeping track of the vehicles was always a thing. We had a new car franchise, obviously, as well as used, and it was Vauxhall. And we must, at any one point across the group, have sort of 75 to 100 red Corsas because that was the offer deal at the time. And I think every week we'd get an email from admin saying, could you find this car? And it was a red Corsa. And you had 6 or 7 managers trying to find this car with the chassis number and that kind of thing. So yeah, it was.
So I suppose the other challenge I see with dealers operate in that way is that there's always that conflict within the workshop around retail work, retail after sales work, and then having to fit in a prep car because clearly that's not going to generate profit and revenue for that particular department. So how did you deal with that?
Yeah, well, we had the same problem that the prep cars were the ones that done at the end of the day if they were starting to look for work. So if they'd had a busy retail day, then nothing got looked at. And then nothing got looked at, and nothing got looked at, and then it was going out. And then all of a sudden it gets done because there's a bit of a priority on it. And I always, and it was easy for me because I was in sales, not from after sales point of view, but my sort of simple brain was saying, look, we always prep 100 cars a month. But surely it's a lot more stressful doing it this way than this way. So can we just kind of stagger some? So what we started doing was trying to stagger the sales work in that. And also prioritizing it. So taking, they all needed used vehicle checks to establish what they did need. So trying to allocate a certain amount of those because they were quick jobs that could be done between things. And then you could then plan the work for the bigger jobs that were required.
Okay. So moving on to vAutoStock now, which was clearly is the flagship product. Just tell us a little bit about the history of the development of that product and the current mission of the business. What are you trying to do and solve for dealers?
Yeah. So, like as I mentioned, we were looking for a solution. Well, I was looking for a solution. No one else really was, but I was looking for a solution and couldn't find anything. And got a developer to, fortunately, through a friend of a friend, knew a developer and a business in London that were doing this sort of bespoke development. So created one, and that was kind of my initial idea, and sort of self-funded it for obviously thinking for the future. And I was quite naive really because I had a simple idea in my mind of what was needed and a budget and thought, well, that'll do the job. But what you find is when you actually get out there and start using it, you then think, oh, it could just do this, it could just do that, could just do that. Now we've actually been in business 10 years this month. So that's obviously, I feel like quite a milestone. And I don't think we've not added something to it each month of those 10 years.
Yeah.
And that I think is needed, because how we develop the product now is every business that we put it in will always have an idea and something they want, so we grow it that way. It's obviously getting less and less as it's gone on, but they're getting on, and we're doing more integrations and that kind of thing now. So yes, that's kind of where we started. Where we are now, we've got 230 businesses using the product. A real mixed bag, from small independents right up to large dealer groups, and some prep centres that are doing 500 vehicles a week. So it's a real mixed bag of who uses it. But yeah, it's more about the integrations. It's probably the thing we're focusing on the most now. So we're kind of working with valeting companies, because a lot of the time that's often you've got people adding cars to valeting systems, which just seems a lot of time and effort for something that's quite simple. So the idea is, we've got the stock, we know what needs valeting, we can add that to the valeting system. So that's what we're doing with a number of valeting companies. And then also the valeting companies need to use their software, so their teams get paid. So we just take feedback. So when they've cleaned it, we know, and it's instantly updated. So if it then needs photographing, it's photographed. We have integrations with photography software, so when the photos are uploaded, that automatically updates. So a real focus latterly has been automating as much as possible.
Yeah.
So,
and that clearly then comes on to the sort of DMS integrations you've got now in place and working on.
yeah.
So how many of those integrations are in place at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, we can take feeds out from any dealer management software that will allow us. Sorry, the sun is moving. It's a nice problem to have, isn't it? At last, the sun is moving around, and it's going to blind our viewers. So I might just quickly move around. So hopefully that'll be a bit better now.
Yes.
So yes, in dealer management system, we'll take feed out, and we can obviously do a lot from that. There's things like when technicians clock on to jobs, we can automate that process and move it into the actual workshop. And when we clock off, we can do that already. But the really exciting bit is we've obviously signed up to the Keyloop Partner Program, so we can use the APIs to update that quicker. So instant live updates, and that leads us into like the servicing side as well, so we can update customers of where the vehicles are better. And then we've also got the ability to feed back into the dealer management system with those integrations. So yeah, the big focus has been obviously Keyloop, because they have the partner program, but we feel there's more and more that are open to it. So we're doing as many that will allow us. So we're obviously where we sit, but it's also the other systems that sit around the dealer management systems. We find they're quite key. It's very mutually beneficial to a lot of those other systems.
Yeah, and clearly the sort of end game here is to reduce the amount of keying that dealers are doing, cut down on transposition errors. We did a lot of work back in, over 5 years ago now, probably 5 to 10 years ago, when we developed our systems within Imperial to work together. And to your point, those were never finished. We never got to a point where we sat there and thought, right, we've done it. Great, superb. There was always iteration after iteration, week after week, just to ensure we were maximizing the efficiencies through that. And that's what I see clearly with the vAutoStock working with you over the years, as those iterations continue to improve that dealer's ability to monitor and manage their prep stock.
Yeah.
So just moving on a little bit, I suppose, in addition to the vAutoStock, there's a couple of other little products that you've put in place as well, I think, isn't there, over the time? And how are they delivering into the sort of whole package that you're offering?
Yeah, exactly. And I was going to come on to that, actually, because while you've got systems that can update, we've still got some things that need to be done by people. We have probably the biggest success for us being the RFID technology that we use, where you put a sticker at each car that arrives, and then that vehicle, every time it passes past one of our readers, it can do in the bare minimum, it will tell you where it's been. So it'll tell you that it's now last seen in zone A. So you kind of know roughly where it is in terms of the business. So you're not looking for cars that have left site or in the body shop or workshop. So as a minimum, you can see where it is. And then the other thing you can do with that is, if you're not waiting for systems to update, if it drives into a workshop or a valeting bay, you can physically move that vehicle into that process on vAutoStock, and you can complete processes as well. So if it goes into the valeting bay and comes back out again, you can put a green tick to say that's done, because you know that's done. Same with photos. Workshop, not so much, because it can go in and out for road tests and waiting parts and that kind of thing. But that's where you link back with your dealer management system, or make it very easy for people to update if they need to. So that the RFID has been a big success for us there. And yeah, I mean, comes back to my original point, chasing courses around compounds. You kind of, it just eliminates all that time and effort. And we also integrate with a number of key systems as well. So if using an electronic key system, we take that information combined with our RFID. One of our clients, we feed out the RFID location, the key number, onto their website, and the sales team have like a hidden button on the website. So they can then, if they're talking to a customer about a particular car on the website, they can quickly look, see the prep status, see the last RFID location, and the key number. So from a customer experience point of view, so it's that stuff that we like working with dealerships. That was quite a bespoke thing for them, but it works, and it's quite rewarding to see it work. So
Yeah,
carry on. We've also done Bluetooth on the back of that as well. So we don't just stop. We kind of look at RFID, but what else can we do? Bluetooth does a very similar location point of view, but it's easier to set up because they can run off battery or solar, so you don't need any power or data to them. So it's a very easy installation. And the other thing we're just kind of working as we speak is ANPR. So again, gives you the ability, if it's used cars, doesn't work so well for new, but for used cars, you can use ANPR to do exactly the same thing as the RFID. It's just a different solution, but they all achieve the same thing.
Yeah, and again, I suppose that's the beauty of your product. And having worked with you, as soon as a dealer has a particular challenge, you're happy to look at that challenge for the greater good, really, and see if there's something that the system can help solve that particular dealer's problem, but there's value to the whole of your dealer network that's using that product.
Yes. And the other thing we feel we do well, we can always do better, is because we deal with 230 different businesses on prep, we see like whole different approach to it across different dealerships. So if one dealership is particularly struggling, then we can kind of say, well, have you thought about doing this? So it doesn't just stop it. We don't just provide the software and that's it, crack on. We're always working with people to try and make things better. So that's quite a good experience. I mean, one thing I realized when I was very Vauxhall heavy, I suppose, in my management days, and you always used to compare yourself against other Vauxhall dealers, whereas really what we should have been doing is looking at the best independents, people that did the best used cars versus the best new cars. But we shouldn't have just been looking at it, and that's where we feel like we can share some of that knowledge with different people.
Yeah, so almost becoming a consultant to that business as well, and helping them solve some of those problems that they've got within that business, where they wouldn't know what to do or where to go to get an answer to that. So very useful. So how do you see these offerings address, or your offering, so vAutoStock specifically, how does that address some of the current challenges in the industry today?
Yeah, I think there are things in place that people use, like spreadsheets and Google Docs, and dealer management systems always have an element of prep in there. But what we find is the software is good, but without the right information to the right people, that's what drives it. So if it's a weekly update report to the senior directors of prep, that can help prep improve. So it's things like that it's not just the software. That's one of the challenges. So in terms of addressing the problems, it's being able to give the people that need to see the information very easily, so that can be tackled rather than, because it's, you can say, the common question is, why is your prep rubbish? So service is getting blamed for something, but actually it's been held up because sales are taking too long to authorize additional work or make a decision on the vehicle. But without the information, just prep's crap, but that's not the truth of it. There's some finite detail in there that people don't know about. So,
well, and look, it's that visibility, and again, having that one system with that visibility, a dashboard view with different levels of access across different sites, locations, group. And you're right, there's always, wherever I go, and from my background, there was always that conflict between sales and prep, because sales wanted prep to a almost new standard, but then if the profile of stock dictated, due to maybe age and mileage, that it would be to a good standard, not a perfect standard, then there'd always be that conflict. And I think something like the vAutoStock allows everybody to understand what the level of prep standard is, how long it's taking through each of those departments or authorization phases. And you're right, it will identify and does identify those sort of bottlenecks, those areas of, that are restricting that car getting through prep as quickly as possible. We all want vehicles prepped within 5 days, really, ready for retail, because it just impacts on stock turn so much.
Yeah, but if you keep on buying cars that need 8 hours mechanical, then there's going to eventually be a bottleneck. And some of the best businesses make a very hard, tough decision. That vehicle is 8 hours mechanical, it's 4 hours body. We're better off prepping 5 more cars in that time, and we'll trade that one, because.
And I think that comes back, and if we go, before vAutoStock gets involved, and we're looking at those sourcing channels, which is a particular issue at the moment in terms of getting hold of good quality stock or volume of stock, then it allows dealers to start to buy that stock that is going to be prepped quickly. Allows them to start looking across different channels and maybe blacklisting certain channels, because they are notoriously going to take a long time to prep. And again, it's the sort of stuff we did at Imperial, looking at, okay, we've got capacity in our wheels department next week, so let's let the buyers go and buy cars with damaged wheels. And then as soon as that capacity's filled, right, don't buy any cars with damaged wheels, pay a little bit more, get clean wheels. So actually being more efficient in the flow around the prep centre.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, coming back to the question, challenge is often no one has that information easily to make that decision.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. And we had to spend lots of money, Chris, getting ourselves in a place where we could get access to that information over the years. So look, we're nearing the end of the podcast. So in conclusion, vAutoStock automates, measures, and improves your preparation process. Taking a feed from your dealer management system, it links all departments and processes together to reduce your preparation times, accelerate your stock turn, and ultimately improve your bottom line. Chris, it's been great catching up with you today, and thanks for taking the time to walk us through the services that vAutoStock offers. Before I let you go, however, we need to clear up the icebreaker question for our viewers. So, which of the 3 interesting facts was in fact false?
Probably worked it out, but I think I've had no hair longer than I've had hair. So my hair modelling days never really took off, unfortunately. So the hair.
You're not clearly you're not alone in that. And I'm about the point where I've had no hair for the same amount of time I had hair. So we're not far apart there.
Yeah.
So look, thanks again, Chris, for your time today. For more information about vAutoStock, visit the website www.vautostock.co.uk or message Chris on LinkedIn directly. Thank you for watching, and a quick reminder that here at Motorvait, we offer 1 hour remote one-to-one dealer discovery sessions for free. To learn more about these sessions and why you should book one, visit our website, www.motorvait.co.uk. Bye-bye for now.